Tibet from Rose McDowall on Revenge of the 80s Radio. From her solo album Cut with the Cake Knife, Rose has created and co-created several bands and projects. One of them, Sorrow, a duo with Robert Lee. We'll see its Under the Yew Possessed album re-released, so we invited Rose McDowall back on to talk about it. It's great to have you here again, Rose.
Yeah, nice to be here.
What inspired you and Robert Lee to put Sorrow together?
I guess it's just like he was a musician, I was a musician. We got together. I wanted to experiment, a bit more with my voice and move slightly away from just like bubblegum pop and do something. Well, it's never been completely bubblegummy anyway. I've always had the dark side, but I just wanted to do something a wee bit different, and I really love the sort of stuff actually. I'd like Under the Yew Possessed, this album that's coming out on Record Shop Day. That's like one of my favourite albums. So I'm quite happy about that.
The music of Sorrow through each of the albums is that. It's a hauntingly melodic sound that's chilling, enchanting, and heart-wrenching all at the same time. We heard this side of you at times through your 80s era projects. Sorrow goes quite deep into some dark places though, Rose. How much of that comes from your own life experiences and how much of it comes from an empathy of others' sadness?
It all comes from my dark world.
The dark world's a good place to get stuff from, I'll tell you that.
Yeah, well, if you don't laugh. No, it was just like, I guess basically it's like I write most of the songs anyway, so it was, and a lot of the lyrics are based on, a lot of them are based on my childhood, but also my adult life as well, and just about what's going on around me and inside me. It's a good way of exercising the demons, writing songs. You know, you can get all that trauma out there if you've got any in there. And it's quite cathartic. It's just like, I feel like when I've written a song and I've done it, I've recorded it, and it's all finished and it goes on to CD, vinyl, whatever, and it's out there, then I feel like it's like my child that's grown up and left home. You know, it's not mine anymore. In a sense, it's like it's grown up and gone off to, I don't know, to whoever's hand it ends up in.
But it is yours and you're sharing it with others, though.
Yeah. Well, your children are all your children. You don't give them away, do you?
Listening to your music, I've been understanding over the many years that you do try to share a portion of your life and yourself in each of your projects and with most of your songs, that your fans sort of can get to know you a lot better.
Oh yeah, I'm not like my bands get to know me I know really well, very close. I have a pool of musicians now because, it's the way most people do it now. If you don't have a solid band on the road all the time, everybody's got other things to do. So I have a pool of musicians and there's people that are free, but I've got like really good musicians at hand. So I'm very lucky in that respect.
Let's talk about Under the Yew Possessed. It's going to be re-released as part of the celebration of International Record Day. That's always a fun day for all of us here.
Yeah.
What was your vision for that album and its tracks?
Well, it was recorded in Canada. We started recording it in Canada, and hence a lot of the ice references and things like that, because it was at Christmas and it was very cold and snowy, and so I guess that was probably came into the album as well. And also not a lot else to do because we were kind of stuck there, visa problems, and so we just decided to be creative with it. Had to go out and buy a guitar because I was only planning to go there for Christmas. Just bought some stuff and started writing and started recording basically when we came back to Britain.
Both you and Lee had several guest musicians take part in the project as well.
Yeah, we had just like friends. We had a piper, Nigel McKernan, who's he's a local friend, and I will probably use him again in the future. But we use most of the instrumentation was done with Robert and I though.
Rose McDowall is with me on Revenge of the 80s Radio. Sorrows Under the Yew Possessed is being re-released. We're talking about that with more straight ahead on Revenge of the 80s Radio. 10 James Orr Street from Strawberry Switchblade on Revenge of the 80s Radio. With me is Rose McDowall. The band she put together with Robert Lee, Sorrow, will see its debut album Under the Yew Possessed re-released for International Record Day, and we're talking about that. The titles of the tracks reflect the mood of the album, Rose, but Under the Yew Possessed was a very non-traditional project in many ways. This includes a spoken word soliloquy to Loki as part of Loki and Evil. Although that wasn't the Loki we were thinking of, and also an Evil.
Yeah, well, that Loki and Evil, I had two little monkeys, little marmosettes, and that's what that song's about. One of them was called Loki, and one of them was called Evil, and the song's about them. They passed away, the poor little things, but...
It's interesting. Loki's kind of the jokester, and Evil is kind of flat out, well, evil. So those are interesting names for the monkeys, I'll tell you that.
A wee bit cheeky.
After Loki and Evil, though, and I wanted to get to this, there are 3 tracks of complete silence. What were yours and Robert Lee's thoughts behind that idea?
I guess it was just like, I think we wanted 13 tracks on the album. And honestly, it was as simple as that. And then we just thought we just added that last one on at the last minute and just decided to make it like put the gap in between and have it as like a surprise that just came up. Like if you leave your record on, if you leave the CD, it's probably not going to work so much. But if you leave your album on, if it keeps going, then there's a great big gap. Then there's the song. So it was, and we wrote that song in the studio, and we had a kind of thing where we would do that. We would always have one song that we just spontaneously wrote in the studio. So we did that with a few things. Actually, not usually the way I like to work. I like to be all prepared and have everything ready and know exactly what I'm doing. But when you've done a whole bunch of songs, it's okay to play around a wee bit. And I mean, Loki and Evil, that was written in the studio.
And here we are thinking that because of the tone of the album and the depth of the music and the sadness involved, that there was some huge deeper meaning to the three blank tracks. And I always thought it couldn't be a mere coincidence that those silent cuts were arranged before the title track.
Yeah, no, that's true. It wasn't. We had it all sorted out. We had quite a lot of time to sort of work on the first one because it was the first one. And we were in Canada for 1.5 years, 2 years. We did do some music things over there. We did a few gigs, but not as Sorrow. We did them as Spell. It was just Robert and I, but we called it ourselves Spell. Sorrow came a bit later when we came back to Britain. But I think it's still a reflection of me. Like, the music is still a reflection of, I guess it's got to be a reflection of the person that's writing it. So it might be a wee bit dark. It's a lot darker, and a lot of the lyrics as well. Like Loki and Evil, for example, nobody knows it's about my 2 monkeys. Well, they do now, but you know,
you heard it here first.
Like, yeah, you certainly did. I think that I like to make. I like to write like that anyway. I like to be a bit ambiguous when I'm writing lyrics. Most of the time, people presume what lyrics are about, and with me, they're generally not really about what most people think they are. It's like since yesterday, for example, in Switchblade, that was about nuclear holocaust, and everybody thought it was just a love song.
I remember that.
And it wasn't. It was about, something really dark and really scary.
And everybody started dancing to it, thinking, "Hey, yeah, it's a great song. I love this. It's a party song." And no, no.
But I tend not to talk a lot about my lyrics because I like people to see what people get out of them themselves. But quite a lot of the lyrics are really, really close to my heart. And I mean, I've been in the studio crying and I've been singing it, recording it. So on some of those recordings, there are tears. And because I really like to touch that part of the soul, to reach to explore sorrow, because sorrow isn't always a bad thing. Sometimes, I don't think so anyway, and I think not enough people, I mean, everybody wants to be happy, of course, right, but not everybody explores the other sides of your personality or moods or lifestyle or what's happened to you. You tend to bury them away, and I think, like, I have to get them out. And so I tend to write all those things, get them out of my head through song.
It's almost like if people listen to your sorrow music, the music from Sorrow, and a lot of your other tracks too, that kind of go along the lines of the mood of sorrow music, if I can say it that way, they learn that, hey, one of my favorite musicians is releasing herself and showing us how much sorrow she feels at times, or how much how down she can get at times, and we're talking about deep down, that it's okay to feel that way. It's okay to understand my own sorrow or your own, let's say, depression or what you're upset or very unhappy about at the time.
Yeah, but that's what feeds it. You know, it's like I had quite a traumatic childhood, really, and I had lots of like post-traumatic stress and things because of that. Because of my brother being murdered and me being with him when he died, and people had attempts on my life as well. I was nearly strangled. Someone nearly stabbed me with a sword while I was hiding in a bush. It was like, honestly, you wouldn't believe it. It was like a war zone, late 70s, and in the part of Glasgow where I lived, it was very territorial, and basically we only got picked on because I really don't like bullies. So if somebody's being bullied, I can't not do something about it. I just can't not. I have to say something. And when some of the times when I've gotten it hurt myself, it's when I've been defending someone else, and where some teenager got stabbed in the back with an ice skating boot, and all the people that did it were there, and everyone else just walked off like, oh, we don't want it to happen to us. But like, I just took my coat off and scarf and wrapped it around until the ambulance came, and it's such a bad thing. It's like the man that got stabbed with the sword, and I was with him while the guys that had stabbed him with the sword saw me and thought, witness. I couldn't see their faces; they were too far away, but they didn't really care. And I was only about 14. You know, so it's pretty young to have to, like, face, like, death so violently in front of you like that. It's like being in a war zone. And then when you're sitting trying to sort of comfort or keep awake the person who's dying in front of you, because both of those people died. And, you know, you try to do your best for them, and then there's just someone coming after you for being a good Samaritan. And you just think, well, someone has got to stand up to them, because if no one ever stands up to them, they will never stop. And even if you do put yourself at risk, there's a bigger picture than that. You have to stop these people because they're just sick and twisted, and it's not the kind of world that I want to live in.
They'll only keep going if somebody doesn't stand up to them. I understand that.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, we once, when my dad got attacked, he got attacked with an axe, and my dad was deaf in one ear, and someone did just mistaken identity, and this person hit him over the head twice with an axe. My dad was in hospital. I didn't know if he was dying or not. I didn't know what was wrong with him. He had 2 big gashes on his head, and he was off to hospital. And the man that did it had the audacity to come to the house and come in and say to my mum and 2 neighbours that were with her, this won't go any further, will it? It's not going to go any further. And I was at the window just looking out the back, and I just turned around and I flew across the living room onto the sky, and I said, you will not get away with it, because you could have killed my dad. We don't know what's wrong with my dad. And my mum sort of was pulling me away, and I didn't realise until afterwards that, you know, my mum had no choice but to let it go, because these people, she was protecting her brood, she was protecting her kids. It was a large family. If she had taken it any further, they would have put a petrol bomb through the window. That's what it was like in Glasgow. So she had to let that go. And I I was really angry with my mum, and I said, somebody's got to stand up to them. But then maybe I'm the one that's reckless. You know, she obviously is a mother. She's been to protect her kids, but I don't think it's like a knee-jerk reaction. It's instinct. If someone is doing something horrible to somebody, I can't stand it. It's like, I think it might have something to do with the fact that my younger brother was murdered by bullies. I just can't handle it. And I kind of really go into fight or flight. It's very extreme and very unpleasant for me as well, because I scare myself when I go into that mode.
And what a lot of people don't really know is that you and your family were forced to move into that area after having a home you really loved beforehand.
Yeah, it was awful. They had to they were demolishing a whole part of Glasgow for a motorway and to extend the hospital by the cathedral, and everyone that lived there were getting moved out because basically they were knocking everything down. So we ended up in this area because schools and things like that, and it turned out to be the worst place I can imagine on the planet. I mean, I know it won't have been, but when you're a kid, no kid should have to go through that. You know, no kid should have to be sneaking out of the door and sneaking downstairs to go to school and crawling through gardens and stuff just to come home from school so that the bullies from the other school didn't get you. You know, it really was that bad. It really was that bad. And I was the eldest. And, you know, in Glasgow, you've always got a big brother to look after you. But I was the big sister. And I always wished I had a big brother. You know, so I never had that big brother. So I was the one that had to protect all my siblings.
Right, you were the big brother and the big sister, if you will. Yeah.
Yeah, and so I just took up martial arts. And at the time, it was when Kung Fu was on TV, David Carradine, and it was like people are gullible enough to believe a lot of the stuff that they see on TV. And I'd been doing martial arts for a couple of months or something, not long. I hadn't learned that much. But someone, they used to slap me every time he walked past me or push me or just bully me. He was a neighbour. He used to cross the road when I came around the corner with my sports bag. It had that much of an impact because I was taught by the world champion's son, who was I was taught by the world champion's father, who had been the previous world champion of Kobasaki. And everyone in the area knew of those people because everyone knows everyone about in places like that. So because I went to his martial arts class and lots of people knew him, and he happened to know some of the big gang people in Glasgow. Not that he was friends with them or anything, but they drank in local pubs and stuff. So I guess in a sense that did nothing. I could have walked about with an empty sports bag. But it really helped because the bullies, literally, I would see him just walking around the corner and crossing the road so he didn't have to walk past me. And the day before, he'd be like pushing me over and things like that. He was much bigger than me. Most people are.
I guess they learned not to mess with you after a while. How did you get out of that neighborhood, Rose? And I'm sure you had to balance the idea of you wanting to get out and needing to do so and protecting your younger siblings at the same time.
Yeah, well, my mum and dad, I moved out of the house before the whole family did. I left home when I was 16, but my family still stayed there for a while. But then they moved. But it's not. There are pockets around Glasgow that are bad. There are, things that happen. There are bad places everywhere, basically, on the planet. There's good and bad places. But when we moved, I moved off and I got married and I had a child and I had my own life then, and I still had to fend for myself because I was still in the same town, but I wasn't in the same place where I grew up with all those nasty people and had all those nasty memories. So it was just so much better, but it didn't. It left me traumatized. And as years went on, it's like I became more and more aware of the fact of how much damage that had done to me, how much it affected my choices, how much it affected everything, my whole view of humanity. A lot. It was that can't happen to you and you not be affected by it. But I was a really sensitive child. I mean, I was really shy, wouldn't talk to anybody, was really shy, would go pink all the time when I was a teenager. And, so it was even harder for me because I had to pretend to be something I wasn't. I had to pretend I was really tough, and I had to talk to people like I wasn't scared of them. And, of course, I was, but you can't let them know that. So you really have to become cunning. I mean, there was a group of girls, 3 bullies. There were 3 sisters. One was my age, one was younger, one was older. And they used to bully me and take my money and things like that. But they would pretend they were playing with me. But there was no piano in the building that they lived in on the top floor. And I used to go up there and play the piano. I was only 8, 9. And I would go up and play this old big grand piano that was in an old tenement building in Glasgow. And one day I went round to play the piano and they had smashed it to pieces. And I just thought that was just so sick because how much pleasure I got out of playing with that, because we couldn't afford the piano. So, I just found one in an old empty house and had to sneak past their house to play it. And I went round and they smashed it up one day. And another time I went round with my friend and the 3 girls took me and my friend, pushed us in an old derelict building, locked us in a cupboard, and they were barricading the cupboard up. And all of the houses on that whole block were empty. And we were in a cupboard in the house, and I had to sort of pretend that I was on their side, because sometimes they pretended to be my friend so they could take my money. But I was pretending to be on their side and pretending to lock my friend up. I actually helped them to lock my friend up in this cupboard and tried to make faces that they would notice. But it's really hard, so I just had to really play the game. It must have been really horrible for Teresa because she thought I turned against her and I was with these people and I was locking her in the cupboard. But as soon as we went out of the close and as soon as they went home, I ran straight back in, less than 5 minutes, and got her out. Because my plan was if I do this, if I play the game this way, I'm free and I can save her. If I don't play it this way, who knows what's going to happen to either of us. We might not be found for a very long time. So, and I mean, she was younger than me. I was only about 8 and she was younger than me. And I think it's it really sort of really makes you think an 8-year-old could be that cunning, that could plan a whole escape route from these bullies and say, right, if I pretend I'm with them. I was bloody double agent and I was 8 years old. I could pretend that I'm with them and I'm on their side, and then as soon as they go away, I can save Teresa. And you had to think like that. You had to think fast on your feet, and I learned that from a very early age.
You have to kind of outsmart the bullies. Yes, I understand that.
Absolutely, yeah.
A lot of us were victims of bullies back when we were kids too. What we're seeing today, though, a lot of young people are standing up as a whole to bullying and trying to end it in their own schools. Because every decade it seemed like the bullies were just getting worse, if you will, more brazen, more bold. The ones you had to deal with in your neighborhood were very bold and horrible.
Yeah, they didn't care who saw them. They weren't worried about witnesses because they knew nobody would say anything because they were too scared.
Yes.
Someone threatened to throw acid in my face as well, and it was. She was from a family that it was her brother that tried to strangle me. So, and one of her brothers was in jail for murder, and there were bank robbers in the same building. It was a really scary place to live.
I mean, they weren't just bullies; they were criminals over there. Yeah.
No, they were evil. They were very evil. I mean, they were chopping someone's arm off, stuff like that. My next door neighbour stabbed his 7 months pregnant girlfriend in the stomach because someone told him that it might not be his baby. So he thought he would go and kill her and the baby in the street. The street was full of children. They were all playing in the street, and he did it in front of all these little kids. And she was okay, so was the baby. But he did stab her in the stomach when she was 7 months pregnant, and that is how sick people are.
So where was law enforcement in your neighborhood during all of this?
Hiding, probably. But there were two policemen that lived further down the street, right at the end of the street. It was a bit nicer. They had to move out. They couldn't. I mean, our street, people would barricade, and I'm talking about not just the kids, I'm talking about, or not just the criminals, but I'm talking about the families. They would barricade the street clothes and have street parties. You know, like fun street parties, not crazy stuff, but it was kind of just like wildlife. It was, you know, the police would come and say, oh, you can't set that fire hydrant off just because you want to play in the sun, you know, and the water in the sun, and you can't barricade the roads up. And, oh yeah, well, nobody really listened to them. They just did what they wanted. It was like lawless, really. I mean, but I do remember some of the policemen when the place that I lived in, 10 James Hill Street, there were two policemen there called the Spider and the Fly. We all the neighbourhood called them, and they were really nice. I mean, a shop would get broken into, and my mum would be coming home from work, and they would say, "Oh, what sizes are your kids?" And they'd just give her like lots of clothes, or like going back to school clothes from the shop window, and they would just say that it's just all going to get thrown away anyway, and you might as well have it. And they would, so some of the, that's when we had bobbies on the street, you know, the foot bobby, you know, the policemen that would walk around on
Right.
foot patrolling, and it was more neighbourly. People could trust the policemen. There wasn't such a big division. Well, people that were nice could anyway, you know, we could, but I guess it's another world. I used to say to my mum when I was really tiny, Mum, like, people wouldn't do that if they only knew. If they only knew that was how awful that was, they wouldn't do it. And I was just naive. I couldn't believe there was so much evil in the world. And it wasn't until I grew up and realised that, you know, some of these people, it is tragic to say, all my life I've thought there's hope for everyone. Some of these people, I don't see it anymore. And I'm only talking about people that haven't even reached 20 yet. Some of them were so damaged that they just could never be rehabilitated.
What you went through, Rose, could have really damaged a lot of people in a lot of ways too. You do little by little tell some of these stories through your music. Did that kind of, I don't want to say keep you from being damaged, but did that kind of help your soul a lot more over the years and come to terms with things that happened in your childhood?
I think it helps me understand, because our family didn't talk much about it. Like when my wee brother died, we didn't talk about him. We didn't talk about him afterwards because it would just be a house full of tears, especially me. I would like just completely lose it. I told my mum and dad to go dig him up because they'd buried him alive. I could not comprehend the fact that I was never going to see Michael again and that he was dead. I just couldn't accept it. My brain would not accept it. And I didn't realise what trauma I was putting my parents through by saying that, because I was kind of too young and too distressed myself. But that must have been a horrible thing for them to hear the daughter say, like, go dig him up, you've buried him alive. I can't imagine what was going through their heads then. And then I got sent off to the country to stay with an aunt because I just basically lost it. I was the only witness, but we couldn't press charges because I couldn't talk about it without crying. So, and my dad said that he wasn't going to put me through that. So we had to drop the charges and all sorts of things, you know. It's just not a just world sometimes. But when I got sent off to the country, I mean, I'm sure that was a big relief for my parents and my younger siblings, who kind of didn't understand it as much as I did. They stayed at my mum's, but when I get sent away, that really, I don't think my mum and dad thought about it, because they sent me to an aunt's in the country that I loved going to, but I just felt rejected. I felt like my brother's just gone, and now I'm gone, and I just thought the world was crumbling around me. It was so bad. When I'd seen your own mum and dad cry, I just thought the pillars that hold up my world are crumbling. and I was just terrified. It was not a nice thing at all. But I survived it. And I managed to be creative through it.
I'm talking with Rose McDowall on Revenge of the 80s Radio. We'll continue straight ahead. Ruby Tears from Sorrow's 1993 album Under the Yew Possessed, a project led by Rose McDowall and Robert Lee. The album's set to be re-released for International Record Day. Rose is with me now. Rose, I'm amazed at how much you've been through and how you got through it all. Other kids are going through things too in their neighborhoods, and what would you say to some young people right now who are living in areas or maybe being bullied mercilessly or seeing other kids being bullied mercilessly or even living in high crime-ridden areas that are trying to live through this or get through it right now?
It's really, really hard. I mean, it's almost unavoidable because you have to leave the house sometimes. You're going to pass someone sometimes. Someone's going to want to steal your leather jacket. Someone's going to want to do something, and it's just really hard. It's like walking on eggshells. It's like everything you do. It's like I still walk around. I cannot sit in a restaurant and anywhere without my back to the wall. I have to have my back to the wall and be in a corner. I just get the creeps if there's things going on behind me and I can't see it, because I live with this impending feeling of doom that something terrible is going to happen any second. And I live with that every single day. And I have to push myself through my comfort zones and push myself a bit further to try and be a bit stronger and do a bit more, because I do retreat a lot. I become really reclusive, and then that's not really good for you either. So it's difficult to get a good balance, and you don't have the right support. It's very difficult. I'm fighting with the medical team over here just now about getting like the right treatment for post-traumatic stress disorder, and I really don't want to go into the fight or flight, because I am scared of what I might do. I'm scared of myself because I get tunnel vision. I don't see red. Everything goes black except for a little pinpoint, a little dot at the end of this black tunnel, and that's where the trouble is. And that is what every atom of my body is focused on, is surviving that dot. And I can come out of it the other end, and I will have forgotten everyone who was in the room. I have massive gaps in my memory, and it's just pure trauma. And that is like really, it's really terrifying, living with the fact that you can get so angry, that you can get that angry, and you can actually hurt people much bigger than you when you go into a rage like that. And it's not a nice feeling. I mean, luckily it doesn't happen very often. It's very rare when it happens, but when it does, I'm a nervous wreck afterwards, because I've just acted like a wild beast or something. But I mean, I really wouldn't, if I was anybody that knew me, and people who do know me, they know that people shouldn't cross me, because I'm one of those people that will give you the benefit of the doubt again and again and again, and then that's enough. Enough's enough, and then I won't take any nonsense from people. But I always think people should have a chance. We all make mistakes, we all do things wrong. You don't condemn someone right away. You just give people a chance, let them prove themselves, and if they continuously do not, then you walk away from them, or whatever it is you have to do. You have to, me and my best friend Linda got held up. Linda has the song Let Her Go, the Strawberry Switchblade song Let Her Go. So that was about my best friend Linda. And we were both in her aunt's multi-story flats, and we just walked into the lift, the elevator, and 3 boys came in behind us with a knife and told us to take off our pants. And my friend Linda was so terrified that she was just about to do it, and I just said, no, don't you dare. And I just stepped up in front, and I talked our way out of that, because I said to one of the boys, I know you, I've seen you around, you're at my school, you will never get away with this. If you do anything to us, I'm going to leave so many marks on you that you will be caught anyway. And I eventually talked them round to backing off, whereas a lot of people would have just a knife in your face, you're going to do what they tell you. But I would have gone down. I would have gone down dying before I let somebody bully me or abuse me like that. I would, it's not a matter of who's tougher than who. It's a matter of it's my dignity. It's my morality. I just won't stand for that kind of nonsense. And if people are going to act like that, then they deserve what they have coming to them. Thing is, most of them get away with it. And justice, that's my big thing. I can be such a wimp sometimes, but if something is unjust, well, I'm right on my high horse.
You try to give people chances, and you want to be nice. You want to give people the, let's say, proverbial benefit of the doubt. But if they keep crossing you, or they try to harm you physically, or do something criminally to you, you have to stand. Yes, you have to stand, and stand for others too.
Yeah, because if people don't, not just a couple of years ago, some man was hitting a woman and he bashed her head off the wall. And this was in Scotland. It was up in Dundee. And I just heard her screaming, and I turned around and I just shouted really loud, "Oi!" to get his attention so he would stop hitting her. But there were people, they were like adults, much bigger than me, walking up and down the street, walking past them, watching this man steal this woman's mobile phone and hitting her head against the wall. And then he came at me because I was pulling him away from her by shouting at him. And then he threatened to turn me into a tea bag, meaning he was going to perforate me with a knife. He was going to put lots of holes in me. He was going to stab me a lot. And I was just like, I can't be scared in a situation like that. I don't get scared in a situation like that, which is maybe a bit silly. But it's just like, I just think it's like staring someone out in the eyes, and you just like don't get. It's like that. It's like you've got to stand up to them. You've got to bluff it, no matter how scared you are. You have got to bluff it, because I'm good at bluffing it. Even at martial arts, when I was fighting, I would always get all set up for one sort of set up my stance for a kick, but I'd come at you with a punch. It was like, it was always trickery and always catching people off guard. You had to, because my dad taught us the best thing you can never do is run. Just run. But if you can't run, pick up a stick. If someone's bigger than you, hit them with them. Hit them as hard as you can and then run. But it's not because my dad was a violent man, because he wasn't. He was a very sentimental, really, really lovely man. But he wanted his kids to be safe, knowing that they didn't have the money to move us away into a really nice area. We were poor. We were a large Catholic poor family, and you just had to live with it. It wasn't actually like my friends went up to Glasgow, and I was playing up there supporting Mary Sheena a couple of years ago, and I hadn't seen Linda for a while, and she came running in, and she started telling all the band how brave I was, and I was just thinking, I wasn't brave. It wasn't a matter of bravery. It was a matter of you have no choice. It's like, this is not an act of bravery. I am very, very scared, but I have no choice, because survival is all you have to think about. Getting out alive, getting out of any bad situation alive was your top priority. It had to be. I'd hate to think what it would have been like if they had guns.
Yes.
Few people did. There were armed robbers and all sorts of stuff, but it's not like legally, It's not like if they had guns in Glasgow back then. Oh man, I don't know what would have happened.
It's still, the weapons are weapons, and you can do pretty nasty things with knives, and you can do pretty nasty things with screwdrivers, and you can do pretty nasty things with, I know they're also knives, but machetes. They're huge knives and other weapons.
What the people in Glasgow carried, and axes and swords and all manner of things. Like, it was brutal, and they didn't mind that they were like my first bad experience. I was about 3 or 4 years old, playing with my doll's house outside the house in the garden, and some boys went by with a knife, and there was little like plastic windows in the doll's house, and they just slashed all the windows open and spray painted my doll's house and spray painted all the windows around the neighbours and ran off. And if you can do that to a toddler, what kind of sick mind is that? Do you know what I mean? It's like,
yeah, it's where do these people learn this stuff from?
I don't know. I don't know. It's like
I mean, who raised this kind of person?
I was like, are people actually really sometimes born evil, or is it maybe some people are more prone to it? A lot of those people, those impoverished areas, there wasn't such a drug problem back then. It was more alcohol. So they would have alcoholic parents who would basically be drunk in the morning until the night. And I know there was one family where three of the kids in the family died. One because he was joyriding in the car. He was 16. The other one was 10. They set fire to a building and he got trapped in it. And the other one was like 18, 20, and she jumped off a building. And there was one child left. And the mother and father were just drunks. And it was just like, there was nobody to look after the kids. Do you know what I mean? You got up, you got out, and you just looked after yourself all day. People weren't brought up, they were dragged up. And I guess monkey see, monkey do.
It's still no excuse for
watching all the
terrorizing.
big boys. No, it's not. It's not. But you know that they would have the gang where I lived was called the Gringo, and then there would be the wee Gringo, and then there would be the wee Totty Gringo. You know, it was like when you were 5 years old, you thought you were in the league to be one of the big guys one day. You know, that's what you aspired. That's what some little kids aspired to. So there was these little levels of gangs of different age groups, and it was twisted. And the people that, yes, like, I mean, who does bring up these people? What have they gone through to not look after and nourish their kids properly? Because, okay, they were poor, we were poor. They might have not had food every day, we didn't have food every day, but none of my family grew up like that. So I always thought you have a choice. You absolutely have a choice. And I just always thought I could not get my head around why people did things like that. I lost faith in humanity. I just thought I'm mortified, I'm embarrassed to be part of the human race, because man is the most self-destructive animal on the planet. It used to sadden me a lot, because the world is such a beautiful place, and so many beautiful places, and why can't we share it and enjoy the world instead of being bitter and twisted about someone's got more than me, and you know, all that sort of thing. I mean, it's like, just be happy for those who are lucky. Don't be bitter and spiteful. Be happy that they've got a nice life. No, it's not something to envy them for. If you think they're lucky, that's really, really cool. But people don't think like that. People get bitter, and people take things out on all the wrong people. I don't know. I guess everyone has their own individual experience of life growing up at whatever age. But I remember my childhood as being the best part of my life, although some of the worst things in my life happened in my childhood. But I had my imagination, and I had my personality that I was not like them. And I was never one to follow the crowd. I never bent to peer pressure. I didn't start smoking because everyone started smoking. I hated it, so therefore I didn't. They might have tried to make you and think it was not cool, but I didn't really care about things like that. I knew that those things were not important. I was smart enough to know that those things were not important, when everyone else was just trying to, I guess, survive in their way.
Yeah, so survival, as you said, was pretty much what you had to do in your neighborhood.
Mm.
As I said before, what you went through may have destroyed a lot of other people. And you said it too. People grow up thinking that they have to aspire to be in the big gang, or people who grew up thinking that they live in the norm, where you have to take what you want by threatening to stab somebody else or terrorizing neighborhoods.
Yeah, it was outrageous. I mean, how can you not have any humility? How can you not have compassion for another human being? How can you actually stab a sword into someone's chest and watch their white shirt turn red and feel nothing? Well, I don't understand those people at all. If they're that dead in the head, then maybe they shouldn't be there.
That's the long-standing question. Philosophically, Rose McDowall's with me on Revenge of the 80s Radio. Are there people who were born inherently evil? There are people in that environment you were in that didn't turn out like the people you were describing, that weren't terrorizing neighborhoods, were people like you who were trying to protect others and find ways to get around these people.
Well, my mum and dad were great. I mean, they were poor, but they worked hard and they were great. I had a good family. I had a loving family. We might not have had a lot, but we had a lot of love. And we just weren't a violent family.
And that's the nurture of nature.
Yeah, I mean, I was like so the opposite. I'm like, not like the wee fairy, the wee fragile fairy over there. Go kick her over and she'll probably float away. But, you know, I learned my first day that when I went to school. I got bullied my first day at school. And I was in tears. The teacher put me on a high chair at the front of the class because I was so small. And she's a teacher. She should have known that was just putting a big target on my face that said, bully me. And so they did. All the kids, like I was 4.5, most of them were 5 because I went to school a wee bit early. And, you know, they just bullied me. But from an early age, if you're living with that, you work it out. You work out how to walk away from it. Even if you walk away from it to the hospital, you're still alive. And you don't walk away from a situation thinking, I could have done something and I did nothing. I couldn't live with myself if I was that kind of person.
Rose McDowall with me on Revenge of the 80s Radio. So I wish we had a lot more time to talk, but we will definitely continue this conversation. And as we discussed, a lot of your life is in your music. A lot of what you went through is in all of your music. And you do have a new album coming, or at least you're working on something, a jam album.
The jam album was written by me, Sean Pinchbeck, and Robert Lee. We both worked on that together to different degrees of who put in what sort of thing. Robert is out of the picture now, so Sean and I are going to release the CD ourselves or through Night School or something, but we want it out this year because it was recorded a long time ago, but someone took the tapes and wouldn't let us have them. But we got them back, and so now we're just eager to get that out because some of the songs on that are just like, were so much fun to do that. It's one of my favourite things that I had done for a long time. So I'm really looking forward to that coming out. It's quite a soundscape. Sean and I are also working on some soundtracks for some movie and some documentaries. I want to sort of do that, and I'd quite like to get into doing soundtracks and music for documentaries, film, whatever. And there's a I don't know if you'll have heard of it over there, but there were some documentaries made over here about the Glasgow scene and the Edinburgh scene, and one was called Big Gold Dream by Grant McPhee, and the other one was called Teenage Pop Stars or Superstars, which I believe has come out now, but I haven't seen that one yet. And that's the one that I am in quite a bit. Well, I've been doing some soundtrack music for Grant, and I actually think I'd quite like to get into that a bit more, because you don't have to stick to that, that, like, you have to stick to the song format. You can. It's just like it's just a different avenue. I have many interests in life, not just music. Like, I like to draw, paint. I like to cycle. I like to do lots of things, and I'm one of those people that would rather be, just because I'd get bored if I didn't, I'd rather be, someone that could do a little bit of a lot of things rather than a master of one, because I would probably get bored. I like variety in my life. Well, I think that's it. And it's also that thing, it's like, if you want to do it, you can. So you don't...
I've been called a jerk of all trades, too. Jack of all trades, I think. At least I hope I heard it that way.
You don't want to be a joke of all trades.
Yeah, all right, there we go. I could be either one. I don't know. I'm a joke of some trades, I'm pretty sure. I like to think I can do them, but hey. Rose, as for the release of Sorrows Under the Yew Possessed, Night School is re-releasing it. They're going to be issuing some limited gold vinyl albums. It's the first time it's released on vinyl, as a matter of fact. First time Under the Yew Possessed by Sorrow is released on vinyl.
Absolutely, yeah. It was only released on CD before, so I'm really looking forward to that because I love vinyl. Was never a great fan of when it went over to CDs. I like the art. You pick up an LP and the cover's a work of art. That doesn't carry well on a CD cover with a piece of plastic over it. But on an album, it's more tactile. It's just everything about it's more exciting from the outside to the inside. With CDs, they just didn't have that. You didn't pick it up and you weren't excited already. You were only excited when you put it on. It's like with albums, with records, vinyl, the whole artwork, I much prefer. I like that format way better than any other, and it's becoming more popular. People keep saying that, but it's starting to pick up again because they did say CDs would last forever, and we all know that's not true. They do deteriorate.
And records are forever as long as you don't warp them, all right? That's
yeah, exactly.
Don't put them in freezing cold attics. There you go.
Or leave your old 38 somewhere nice, because they're not flexy, are they? It's very brittle plastic, those old records.
Thank you for coming on with us again, Rose.
No, you're welcome. It's been a pleasure. I'm looking forward to getting over there. I'm doing some gigs over there.
And looking forward to seeing you when you're here. Let's play a track from Sorrows Under the Yew Possessed, Forgive Me, 1993 on Revenge of the 80s Radio.